Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Chamber Check-In time. And today we get to learn about a very interesting nonprofit called US Energy and have a conversation with Jason, the director, Jason Marmon. But before we get to Jason and learn more about US Energy, I get to thank our series sponsor, Delta Dental of Idaho. Delta Dental of Idaho provides high quality, unique plans designed for businesses to keep their employees happy, healthy, and smiling. And they have these really fun factoids from their Tooth Truth series that I get to share. And here's one now.
Did you know that teeth are the hardest substance in the human body? I did.
Hey, that's cool. Thanks for the series sponsorship, Delta Dental. And now I get to introduce Mr. Jason Marmon, the director of US Energy. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, you recently joined the Chamber, I think, at the end of 2020 and have been involved in a few of our things, and I think our Food and Ag Industry Advisory Board, and that's where I kind of met you. And I'm so curious about what your nonprofit, what the cause is. So tell me and the audience listening about US Energy and how it got its start.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So when I say we, it's me and my father. He's the executive director, Dr. Roland Marmon. We're from Northwest North Dakota originally. And so we started with like an oil and gas background. And in 2014, I left Baker Hughes. It was like the third largest oil company in the world at the time. I was a health, safety, environmental guy. And there was a need for community events, community engagement, kind of corporate community relations. And so we started doing concerts. And so in 2014, and ending, I guess, in 2019, not necessarily ending, but, with the pandemic, we were working with artists like Travis Tritt, Clint Black, Charlie Daniels. And we really found like a niche that was essentially sponsorable, from the corporate side. And then we were addressing community issues, environmental quality. We were working on, flaring and fracking issues. We were working on behavioral health and community engagement. And we just found that, when we did events, we would tie a workforce development piece into it. We'd do like job fairs. We'd do like golf tournaments, sporting clays, any type of even fishing tournaments. And we found that whenever we did these type of events, people got to network, they got to have a good time, and it was, really paid for by the corporations. Okay. And so that's, kind of where we got our start. And then in 2020, we had a ton of momentum in 2019. We had partnered with the PBR. We did a sold out event in North Dakota. And then in 2020, it was, flat. And so me and my dad were like, well, what should we do? And we have, an agricultural background. North Dakota is a very big ag state, like Idaho. Yeah. And I got my undergrad in Northern Arizona. And so a couple of my best friends are actually from this Boise area, and they got businesses here. And so they've been, since 2012 when I graduated, I've been coming here every summer. And in 2018, I was working for a startup called Art of Visuals. And it's maybe not that well known here in Boise, but they got 2.1 million followers on Instagram. They're white labeling commercials for Visit Idaho, Lexar, Sony, guys like that. And so Prince was like, hey, you need to come out to Boise and do an event here. And so taking all that momentum that we've done over the years, and then working with agricultural leaders like Gabe Brown and Ray Archuleta, they really took us under their wing, and they're saying, hey, this sustainable ag, this regenerative agriculture movement is really, kind of a snowball going downhill. And we need, promoters, and we need organizers like you to help us tell this message. And so in September of last year, I was invited out to a soil health academy at McIntyre Farms in Caldwell. And so that was really an aha moment for me. It was like, oh, this really ties everything together, that we're working on, and sustainability and climate change. And so US Energy, we're really focused on sustainable system design coordination, and when I say systems, that's kind of like community. And so we go out and we identify, promote, and try to help scale these sustainable solutions. And so the Carbon Summit That's what's really about is really focusing on opportunities and being catalysts for identifying those solutions.
Okay, so U.S. Energy is the nonprofit.
Yep.
And tell me more about some of the other programs. And before we get into the Carbon Summit piece,
Okay.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So essentially, what we try to do is, we kind of take that a promotional point of view, whether it's for other nonprofits, whether it's for service companies, whether it's for companies that got great products, or even corporations. So we try to help tell authentic stories. So my dad's a tribal member. I'm a descendant, and from a cultural standpoint, we grew up.
You say tribal member or travel member?
Tribal.
Oh, cool.
So we're Turtle Mountain Chippewa.
Oh, awesome.
And so from that standpoint, my dad is a historian. He just got his PhD in Native American history. And so I grew up on these amazing stories. And so we found that, telling authentic stories and really in an engaging, meaningful way, the corporations, they're looking for those things, say like, how do we connect with the public? How do we connect with our stakeholders? And so that's really what we try to focus on. And that's, we, from a nonprofit standpoint, like we stay out of politics. Like that's not our thing, but there's a lot of challenges, like especially coming out of a pandemic. Boise is a great example. It's like you have rising behavioral health issues, you have rising homelessness, like you have a lot of these socioeconomic challenges that's from a coordination standpoint. Like we're out here, trying to connect those pieces and say, hey, let's focus on the opportunities. Like, I have a 16-year-old brother who's in high school, and they may be struggling the most out of anybody, and it's a silent struggle in that sense. And so that's where we're saying, hey, let's go to the corporations and ask them to help us provide opportunities, to get them involved and to say, hey, we want to solve your problems. Just give us the chance. And so there's there's so many things that we could be working on. And that's why we took the initiative in around the Carbon Summit to say, hey, let's get some people together and let's set some common goals and let's see what happens.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, and that's a great segue into tell us and teach and educate me more about your Carbon Summit. So that's an event, right? And it's coming up when?
So June 16th, 17th. So it's just a month away. And, we've been brainstorming on this, putting this thing together since September. And so we're looking at like 18 to 20 keynote style speakers. And it features our SEED show. SEEDS is an acronym and an analogy. So SEEDS is, let me see if I get one of my hands in here. So sustainability, energy, education, diversity, and safety. And so we say if you plant these seeds, you grow community. And whether that's an idea, whether it's an organization, whether that's a product or a service, I can give you an example of how we work with other groups. So one of our sponsors is a company called Glanris. They're a water technology company out of Memphis, and they found us through our LinkedIn. And they created a novel water filtration media system. It's kind of like a activated charcoal or like a Brita, but it uses rice hulls as the filtration media. So for people who may not know, rice hulls are the leading agricultural waste product in the world. So they take that waste, they turn it into a filtration system. It's a third of the cost of an activated charcoal. And once it's used, it can be added as a soil amendment, to soil. So we would consider that a sustainable solution. And we did a podcast with them. They took that to their investors and they raised their seed funding after that video. So that's what we say of telling authentic, powerful stories, is just a way of resonating with people.
And I went to your website and looked at the Carbon Summit, and it really has an agriculture-based graphics, agriculture-based theme. So I'm very interested in that. Tell me more about.
Yeah, from the agricultural standpoint, like where we're from, in Williston, it was really an agricultural community before it was an energy community. And if there's one thing people can agree on out of anything, it's food. Food is what binds us. And when we say carbon in the context of Carbon Summit, carbon is not, we're not talking about it necessarily in the framework of climate change. We're talking about it as we're carbon beings. Like we use carbon technologies. Like carbon is the glue that kind of holds us together. And so when you hear it in the news, they talk about carbon being bad, but it's actually our energy source. Just like we breathe in oxygen, but carbon is what allows us to. That's why we're alive. It's one of those elements that has over 1 million binding capabilities with other chemicals. So it really is it's our glue.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, and I love how you've educated me now more on carbon than just the negative term of the exhaust coming out of manufacturing.
It always gets associated with climate change, but the reason why the agricultural standpoint is the soil and the ocean, but the soil is the biggest opportunity for carbon sequestration.
Okay.
The planet has perfect systems. Just the way that we consume is we're using much more resources than the planet can replenish right now. And so it's the sustainable ag, regenerative ag, that's the realignment with nature. And so as humans or as society, it's kind of our job to steward the planet because it gives freely, and we take and take and take. And so if you're focused on an extraction model of business and you're not putting back, you leave a void in those communities. You leave a void in those areas. So energy works in a flow. And that's what we're kind of focusing on. Is like we want to be that flow, that give back, and provide organizations to plug in essentially to what we're doing. And so we feel like we're onto something pretty good. We have nearly 1,400 confirmed attendees, like for the Carbon Summit. And these are senior VP of Nestle, Cargill, ADM, McDonald's. So we feel like we're hitting a zeitgeist type of moment to where, hey, the collective conscious is or the society's attention is like, hey, these are things that we probably should work on.
That's awesome.
And so the stake is in the regenerative ag, because our farmers and ranchers, they make up 2% of the nation's population. And so if they're not doing well, I mean, we're in trouble. And so we feel like we need to give them some support, and we need to attract the younger generations into becoming farmers and ranchers, and even farmhands. I think that's a growing market again. To where you got these young people who can go learn skills. They can get involved. They can work the land, and it's just around that kind of that conservation and stewardship type of model.
I love it. I grew up on a farm as well, and down the road we had asparagus to pick, and I was always putting in PVC pipe to irrigate the cornfields that were just down, and that's where I learned it. So I love what you're talking about. We just don't have that capability. That's surprising to me that 2% of the population are farmers, which provide 100% of the food.
Yeah, and when you think about the global supply chain shortages that are going on, and even around if you've seen the pipeline cyber security breach that created a panic on the East Coast, and you think of local resilience and local capacity, and fortunately for the Treasure Valley, you have a great agricultural community here. You have this land, but with the way that the valley is growing, it is presenting tremendous challenges. And so you have these developers that are eating up this agricultural land, and so you really have to take that in consideration. Like, what happens if you get food from California or Mexico or India? You have to have that local supply chain. And there's huge opportunities there because it builds community. Like when you're eating local food, you're supporting local farmers and ranchers.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, hey, I'm going to put your website here for the summit on here. So if folks are watching and they want to attend, they can attend virtually, correct?
Yeah.
And in person, are there tickets still available to go in person? And where is it at?
It's at the College of Idaho.
Okay.
So College of Idaho, we're going to have 200 people in person here. Ideally, we'd like to have more, but for safety and precautionary measures, like we're just going to keep it at kind of 200. We're going to actually sell. We've been holding off on selling some tickets until we got that final number. So I think tickets are going to go on sale, I'm pretty sure tomorrow. And so if they keep an eye on the website, our LinkedIn showcase page, that's a great place to check us out. Our Facebook. We'll be putting those links up here probably by tomorrow or the weekend.
Okay.
And yeah, so
cool.
yeah, we got, I think 15 to 20 keynotes coming. So it's going to be very informational, and if they happen to miss it, they can go to our YouTube channel, and we'll be putting all that content up there as well.
Awesome. Well, this is a great opportunity for me to help share what you guys got going on, and I wanted to thank you, Jason, personally, for investing in the chamber. It's not often that a nonprofit, comes to the area or spawns, and the first thing they do is join the chamber. But that's exactly what you did, and it says a lot about your guys' credibility and the culture from your family, and investing in a community. And bottom line, it means the world to us. So thank you for that investment with us and in the broader community.
I would say, from a cultural standpoint, I think a lot of our challenges and problems per se are a cultural thing, because we this is a very difficult thing to talk about, but we have to move away from the competition style marketplace to one that's more cooperative, more collaborative, and the intergenerational communication piece. It's hard for my generation to connect with the boomers in a sense that, hey, it's like, hey, let's work together. Hey, we're ready to take some action. But they have a lot of the resources, they have the knowledge and the wisdom, and my generation and younger, it's like we got the energy, and like we're not afraid to make some mistakes and try to figure things out. So that's a real big focus for us is really kind of fostering that communication piece of saying, hey, let's work together. Our motto is work with us. So when it's corporate facing, it's US Energy, but when it's you and I, it's us.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, hey, everybody, June 16th, Carbon Summit. Go to the website, check it out, watch it as it's archived if you can't be there live. Jason, thanks so much again. It was great talking with you.
Paul, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great weekend.